Hi, everybody. Just wanted to touch base with you after you took your first assessment, just to let you know when you look at the graded assessment, just to know what you're looking at and what it all means. So remember that when you get your assessment back, you will not have a score at the top. There won't be a letter grade at the top. There won't be a percentage at the top. What you're going to see are 5 different levels of mastery, right? So remember in our rubric, as you saw in the assessment preparation, each standard you're going to be it's either going to be said that you're at an expert level, proficient, developing, novice, or not yet. Now, what I am going to do, because writing out those words takes me a while, is remember that we do use the number 4 to represent expert, 3 to represent proficient, 2, 1, and 0 to represent those others. So that's what you're going to see when you actually take a look. So it'll say either a 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0 next to each standard. But please do understand that those numbers, I guess the way I'd put it is you shouldn't do math with them, right? So don't try to add them up and divide, like, and average them out and things like that. That's totally meaningless, right? So remember that ultimately your grade is going to be based on taking those levels of mastery and just counting up how many experts you have, how many proficiency you have, and so on. So first of all, let me share my screen here. What you're going to see is that in the grade book, you will have, I will put your levels of mastery. And here's my fake student account. So let me go into grades. And let's do arrange by assignment group. And if I scroll down here, the first ones you see are all the assignments that you have, but down below, oops. Oh, good. Okay. When you arrange by assignment group, it puts the levels of mastery at the top. And so what you can see here is that on my standards 1 through 5, I have these scores, right? So I got a 2, which means developing on standard 1, an expert on standard 2, a novice on standard 3, proficient on standard 4, and an expert on standard 5. And of course, all the rest are blank. So at the end of the quarter, I'm just going to count up how many of each type you have. That's going to determine your grade. Now, one of the things you might remember from the orientation videos is that I've provided you with what I call a grade projector. And so I just want to talk about this real quick because I don't want you to be, I want you to be careful when using this thing. So if I type in the scores that I got, it says that I have a C-. Now, there's some real important caveats to understand here. First of all, what it's doing is it's projecting out and predicting how many of each level of mastery it thinks you're going to end up getting. So, like the fact that I got 1 single novice when I assessed on 5 standards, well, it assumes that I'm going to get 5 of those total throughout the quarter when I assess on all the standards, which there's 27 of them, right? And that's reasonable, 5 times 5 is 25. So if you assessed on 5 standards now, kind of after each assessment, it kind of predicts that there's going to be 1 more novice. And so it predicts 5. Well, maybe that's the only novice I get the entire quarter. So that prediction might be totally irrelevant. And then second of all, and we're going to talk about this more in a second, you're going to get to reassess on these. Okay. So later on, you might turn that 1 into a 3, and you might turn this 2 into a 4. And look at that, it went all the way to a B+. So it's just really important to, if you want to use this thing, I encourage you to use it, but just take it with a big grain of salt, because you're going to improve these scores, number 1, and number 2, it's assuming that you're just going to keep performing at this exact same rate, you know, which you may or may not, right? So let's talk about reassessing real quick. So what's going to happen? I'll go to the calendar here for this. So here on October 4th was standards 1 through 5 assessment. Then much later down the road here, let's see, on the 24th is your standards 6 through 11 assessment. And then on November 2nd, you'll have the opportunity to reassess on standards 1 through 11. And I will make another short video as we get closer to this. But for now, what you just need to know is, number one, you can completely replace any scores you got on this assessment when you reassess on November 2nd, right? So I don't care if you got a 0 right now. If you got a 0 on one of these standards, you can completely replace that 0 with a 4 or a 3 or whatever. Just completely replaces it. Okay, so if you do have a couple of low levels of mastery, that just means you have some more studying to do. That means that I'd love to meet with you on Zoom and help you with those things, but you can bring those up. And then the second thing here is that you do not have to reassess on all of the standards in order to do the reassessment. You get to pick and choose. So anything that you're already at an expert level on, maybe things you're at a proficient level on, if you decide I don't want to reassess on those, you don't have to. So you get to pick and choose on November 2nd. So maybe some people might only have one standard they want to reassess on, others may have 10. Either one of those is okay. So again, I'll record another short video as we get close to give you the granular details there, but just for now, no, you get to pick and choose. And that opportunity is coming. Now, even though that seems far away, what I would highly recommend is if you had a standard that was kind of a problem, let's say it was standard 1. I mean, standard 1's a tough one. I know that because I'm asking you to remember how to solve all sorts of different equations, right? Well, standard 1 would be one that I would not wait to study up on, because you're going to be using those equation solving skills throughout the stuff that you're learning right now. So, don't wait till the weekend before November 2nd to kind of go back and study that. Do that as we're going here, a little bit at a time, rather than trying to cram it, on this weekend of the 29th and 30th and so on. And lastly, I want to point out that in the standards 1 through 5 assessment module down here, you'll find 2 new things. First, the standards 1 through 5 assessment, a blank version of it, and then also the standards 1 through 5 assessment key. Okay, so you'll see all my solutions here, so you can compare what you did with that. But then the blank version's there because whether it's for the reassessment that's coming up on November 2nd, or the opportunity that we'll have at the very end of the quarter, or the final exam, one really great way to study is to print out an assessment and just redo it. If you think about 2 weeks from now, you won't remember the answers, right? So it'll be pretty much like putting yourself to the test again and seeing, okay, do I know this stuff now? So that's why that's there. All right, so I really encourage you to come and visit me in student hours if you need some help on any of these standards. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.